Welcome to Issues and Interviews on the Hudson Power Broker YouTube channel. Do me a favor right now, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hudson Power Broker YouTube. You don't want to miss any of the campaign coverage that we have coming up over the next 2 months. And I'm joined by a great guest today. He's running in a very high-profile congressional race here in New York State, in the Bronx and Queens, the 14th Congressional District. I'm joined by John Cummings. John, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, Karen. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, very cool. I think you and I have a friend in common because I learned about your candidacy from my brother-in-law, Mike Puma, the sports writer. And he said to you. And so I got to check this guy out. And I checked out your website. And I said, I want to talk to this guy.
It's a small world. Yeah, I was at Fordham University with Mike a few years ago. We actually did games together at Fordham, and I know he became a very successful sports writer.
Yeah, and then his greatest accomplishment is he's related to me by marriage. So that's
right. Good choice. A good choice by him, no doubt.
Very good. No, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He lives here. We live in the same town. Our kids go to school together, so it's very nice. He's my constituent too, so hopefully I get votes out of him and my sister.
Yeah, at least one. Yeah.
Yeah. So John, you have a really interesting background, a great background, I would say, kind of an all-American, all-New York background. Tell us about your bio.
Yeah, born and raised in the district. I grew up in the Parkchester section of the Bronx. I went to St. Raymond Elementary School and St. Raymond High School, also in the district. I bounced around for a while after I got out of high school, as a lot of us did at the time. You know, college was important then in the early to mid 80s, but not as important as it is now. Actually, late 70s when I got out of high school. And eventually I ended up in the New York City Police Department at the age of 22, followed in my dad's footsteps. My dad served for 21 years, and I served from 83 to 91, was injured in the line of duty, couple of knee surgeries, and out I went. So I worked in NSU 7 down in the South Bronx, and then I worked in the 4-6 for a couple of years. And then I went to the Harbor Patrol, and I tore my knee up on a boat, a couple of knee surgeries. And I like to think that God had other plans for me, So I ended up going back to school, went to Fordham University, which is where I met Mike, who you were just talking about. And I graduated from there. I got into broadcasting. I still do games at Fairfield University. Been doing that for 26 years. So that's been a big part of my life for a long time.
What do you do? What do you do at Fairfield? What do you do?
I've done all of the women's games I did all the women's games on radio, basketball, for 25 years. Yeah, play-by-play. And I did most of the men's games for many, many years, and it just became too many conflicts. So I ended up doing strictly all the women's games, road and home, for a long time. And then this past year, they finally got rid of radio because everybody's streaming the games. So we started streaming the games on ESPN3. So I've been doing the games on TV for the last year and a half. And it's been a big part of my life, and I love doing it. And being around, college students who are true student athletes is a real treat. And then I went back to St. Raymond's to teach in 1998. So I've been teaching at St. Raymond's since 98. I teach government, civics, U.S. history. I also teach a criminal justice class. So yeah, it's been a pretty well-rounded life. I have 2 grown sons. I've done almost everything you can do. And people always ask me, wow, why are you doing this now? You're 60, you've had a pretty full life. And my answer is, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. I want to be sitting around 10 years from now when I'm 70 saying, you know what, I should have run for Congress back in 2020. And that's where we are. And it's gone extremely, extremely well to this point.
Good for you. Let's go back to the basketball a little bit, even though that's not really the subject, but I'm interested. Did you ever work, or do you know Ed Cooley at all from his Fairfield days?
I sure do. Yeah, Ed and I are good friends, and his wife, Nerese. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I went to Providence, so we took Cooley to Providence, and now he's doing great things up there. And he's a real Providence.
You won't meet a better guy than Ed Cooley. He's just a gem, and he is a homegrown product up there, up in Providence. Born and raised, was a high school star there, and you know what? I mean, that's how I feel about my candidacy here. I'm as homegrown gets. I've lived and worked in this district for 60 years. And I know the people here. I mean, this is my home. I know the people. I know the needs. I know the issues. And I think we're sorely lacking right now when it comes to that with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, so John Cummings is running the 14th district, currently represented I'll put represented in quotes by AOC. She's always doing other things. In fact, cover of the post today is she's doing her makeup routine on Twitter, and it's making all kinds of head on Twitter. If you're elected, John Cummings, will you do a makeup routine on Twitter, or will you discontinue that practice?
No, I think I'll skip the makeup. We had a little fun with that yesterday. People might see it on social media, etc. While she was doing her makeup video, I was out doing a neighborhood cleanup and sweeping streets underneath the L on the 6 train. So that shows you the difference between our approaches. I'm a hands-on guy. This is my home. This is my district. And that's what people want here. They want real representation. She's done a great job basically creating a national reputation for herself. And we have a meme that goes around social media that has her picture and it says stardom, and it has my picture and it says service. I believe that God put me on this earth to serve people. I did it in the police department. I've done it teaching, and I'd like to do it in Congress.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And you make a great point about being homegrown, because I'm in Dutchess County, and I'm about 25 minutes from Yorktown. We go down and we play a Little League. Our Little League guys play against the Yorktown Little Leaguers. Beautiful suburban community where AOC went to high school. And here you are. You're really Johnny from the block, and she's pretending to be AOC from the block. It's ironic.
Yeah, and like I said, we've lacked true local representation for a long time. The now Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez was able to sneak up on Joe Crowley, who was the previous congressman, and the knock on him was that he wasn't here, and now she's not here. Right. We never see her, and she's on to bigger and better things already, and I'm sure she's just viewing New York 14 as a stepping stone. And I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to go down there and serve. Somebody asked me about term limits, and I was like, dude, I'm 60. Term limits. What do you how long can I stay?
That's very funny. Very funny. Tell us about the district, because I know it's both Queens and Bronx, but what part of both those boroughs?
Yeah, it's 65% Queens, 35% the Bronx. And the Bronx part of it is City Island, Country Club, Throgs Neck, Pelham Bay, Mars Park, and Parkchester. And then in Queens, it's Malba, College Point, Corona, East Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, Woodside, Maspeth, Sunnyside, and part of Astoria. So it's really a blue-collar, residential, working-class, homeowner type of district. And the congresswomen and the media, too, they often make it out to be like it's the hood, and it's not. It's mostly union people who are happy with their health insurance, people who are happy with their 401ks, people who just want law and order and good schools so they can go on about their lives and provide for their families. And she's obviously not going to help with that. She wants to eliminate private health insurance. She wants to ban charter schools. I always say that party has become the party of no. You can't do this. You can't do this. We don't want this. We don't want, and it has nothing to do with liberty and freedom at all. And people look at the district and they go, wow, it's 8-1 Democrat to Republican. How are you going to win? And I always tell them, it's not 8-1 socialist to Republican. It's not. There's a lot of Democrats who are moderates who want nothing to do with anything that she's selling, especially defund the police. That's become the hot button issue. I know what that's all about, and you don't want to be any part of that.
Yeah, very well said. It's interesting, John, because not most, but many guys like you, your age, cops, they're in. They lived in Pearl River and Mahopac and Suffolk County and Orange County. You stayed right in the neighborhood. Why did you stay there when so many in your profession and your age bracket there moved out?
Yeah, I stayed there for a long time, and actually, Kieran, I did move out for a while. We moved out for a few years, and it was simply because, and this is a big part of my campaign. I moved out for about 4 years, just because we could not afford to send my sons to Catholic school, and the public schools were not an option. They simply were not. They were wildly dangerous at the time, and there was no way that we were going to be able to do that. So my sons got a good education, and that's fine. But we'd like to give other people that same opportunity. And I'm a big proponent of school choice. I'm a big proponent of charter schools. I'm a big supporter of school vouchers. There are, tens of thousands of children who are trapped in failing school systems, and there is no way out because the people don't have the financial wherewithal to get out. So for me, vouchers and charter schools are, education is the great equalizer. It's the great equalizer. It's the ticket out. And parents know that. And all they want is an opportunity to get their children out of these failing schools. And that's why I'm here. And I'm familiar with that. Obviously, as a Catholic school teacher, people are often saying, well, of course you're pro-voucher. You're teaching a Catholic school. But I see what can be done. Our school where I teach, it's 88% minority, 40% of the students live in the poorest congressional district in the United States. That's the neighboring District 15. And we graduate 99% of our students with a full Regents diploma in 4 years, and we do it for less than a third of the cost that the city spends.
Wow.
So it can be done, and people deserve an opportunity to get their children into schools that are not failing.
You know, John, you mentioned a great logo, by looking at it behind you. What's that, the front bridge?
That's the Whitestone.
Oh,
yeah, it connects the district. I mean, the district is a very unique district. I mean, we have the Trump links in the district. We have Citi Field, we have the tennis center, we have LaGuardia Airport, and we have Rikers Island. And I have a third of the Bronx Zoo. Don't ask me how they split the zoo, but they split the zoo.
Is that right? You only have part of the zoo?
I have a part of the zoo. I don't know which voters. I don't know how the animals vote, but that's what they did. So.
That's very funny. That's very funny. Tell me about teaching. You know, you made a great point about AOC being dedicated to stardom and you being dedicated to service, and the classroom, especially in a tough neighborhood like that, a real opportunity to serve people. You've been there over 20 years. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I went back there. It was an awesome opportunity for me to give back what was given to me. I went to the school. I've been hanging out in the schoolyard at St. Raymond since I'm 6 years old because I didn't have to cross the street to get there. So I just wanted the opportunity to give back, and the payback personally is unbelievable. You know, when guys come back and they're successful and they come and look for you, there isn't a better feeling in the world. And a lot of our students have gone on to serve others. Many of my former students are in the New York City Police Department. They're on the fire department. They're doctors, they're nurses, they work in the medical profession. I mean, that's what the school has always produced, is people of service. And that's a really important part of what we do. And I think that's always been a big part of me. Like I said, it was passed along from my dad, that, you know, service is important and you're here to serve others. And I think, as I said, that's what we're lacking in this district. We haven't been represented here in a long time. The Congresswoman never even opened up a dedicated office in the Bronx part of the district.
Wow.
She doesn't know the area. She's not from here. I know she said she lived here till she was 5, and that's great. I mean, her parents were apparently very successful, at least her dad was, and they moved up to Yorktown, and good for them. But she's not familiar with this place like I am. You know, I know what it's like to get up in the morning and get on the subway and go to work. And I did that. I've done a lot of things in my life, and I've seen everything that you could possibly see in this city. And I don't like what's going on right now. Obviously, the defund the police movement is just beyond my imagination. You know, the Congresswoman said, well, we need to experiment. I was part of the experiment the last time in the 80s and into the early 90s when we were doing over 2,000 murders a year. And my understanding is that back then, when we were doing 2,000 murders a year, only 5% of the city's budget went to law enforcement, if you can imagine that. 5% to keep the people safe. I mean, that's the government's major job, is to keep the people safe. So 5% of it went to law enforcement. They eventually got it up to 8%, and you went from 2,260 murders to 295. So now they want to dial it back to 6%. Why would anybody ever think that this is a good idea? People want safety, they want security, and unless you have it, everything else that you want to talk about, you can't. You can't. There's no sense talking about any other issue if people are afraid to go to work, go to school, right, you know, and just get out and go shopping and do whatever they want to do. If there's no safety, there is no society.
You know, a big issue kind of within that law enforcement issue right now is, for 20 years we heard, oh, broken windows policing cleaned up the city. You went from 2,000 murders to a few hundred murders a year. And now you hear broken windows policing is almost like a dirty word, and broken windows policing being where, you know, you arrest the guy for the minor offense because then he doesn't commit the major offense tomorrow or the next day. Your thoughts on that and policing in general, and how you can get the crime situation under control?
I mean, that's how they fixed it, and that's how they're unraveling it. Because you're right, the broken windows policy started by Mayor Giuliani back in the 90s. When you went after the smaller offenses, that's really set the trend. It established an atmosphere where people knew they couldn't get away with anything, which was a good thing. And that's what we needed at that time. And it worked for a very long time. And things really started to unravel when the city council and the mayor decided to dial all of that back. So all of the quality of life issues that were enforced were no longer enforced. And then people start to feel a little bit, you know, frisky, for lack of a better term, and they start to push the envelope. I like to tell people that last year, when they were hitting police officers with buckets of water, that was just a dress rehearsal. They wanted to see exactly how far they could push this without getting anybody in power to respond. And guess what? Nobody in the city council, nobody in the mayor's office, they didn't respond. They said, gee, that's terrible. And that was it. So then you really start to push the envelope. And then you add to that bail reform, and you add discovery reform, and you add closing Rikers Island. And then you could add the idea of allowing prisoners out because of COVID. We all got locked in our houses and they cleared the prisons. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And that's what you end up with. I mean, it's chaos down here. And Manhattan is just a ghost town. I was downtown the other day. I just could not believe what I saw. I was on Worth Street about 11:30, 12 o'clock in the morning, and late in the morning. And it's a place usually where if you're trying to cross the street, you have to dodge the cars that are blocking the box. They're in the crosswalk. I walked diagonally across the street for 1 block and saw no cars. Right? Wow. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
Eerie. That's here. You're the first person I've heard make that connection. That's very insightful. And it seems like 100 years ago, people in the street were throwing water on police officers last summer. But so much has happened since then. You're the first person to connect that. And that makes a lot of sense. They were seeing how far you could push the envelope before somebody said that's enough, at a higher political level. And they never said it. And we got to where we are now, late August 2020, where, big cities are in flames. Little cities in Wisconsin are in flames. Things are really out of control. And that was kind of the canary in the coal mine. That's a good point. I'm totally going to plagiarize that, John. I hope you don't mind.
You feel free to do so.
I'll say John Cummings in the Bronx, at St. Raymond's in the Bronx. That's all boys school, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we have the boys' school, we have a girls' school up the block, and then we have the elementary school as well. And it's been there it was the Mother Church of the Bronx, 1842 that church opened. So it's been around for a while.
Okay, all right. I grew up here, but my wife is from Woodlawn. We got married in St. Barnabas, and my parents were from the Bronx, but they moved up here in I think 1970, almost 50 years ago, as a matter of fact.
The big story in Woodlawn now is that none of the bars and restaurants can open in Woodlawn, but across the street, across McLean Avenue, they can open because they're in Westchester. It's insanity.
I know. St. Barnabas Church is like that. It's half a
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. And I know healthcare is a big issue in that district, in the country, and it's an important issue to you. As we wrap up here, talk about it and your thoughts on how we get people more affordable and higher quality healthcare.
Well, the congresswoman wants to ban private insurance, which would obviously, wreck a lot of people. It really would. I mean, never mind the job losses. But, for many years, unions have given up better raises so that they could have better health insurance. And that would all go away. I have always been more of a proponent of free market approaches towards health insurance. I think it needs to be more portable. I would love to see the possibility of vouchers, whereas you would get a voucher from your employer to shop for your own policy rather than be married to the policy that the company or the union is giving you. I think that would drive costs down. And then obviously, if you drive costs down enough, you can help the people who are less fortunate that can't afford health insurance, and you don't have to do it at these ridiculously inflated prices. I think that's really the way to go about it. I think the most interesting thing about it is, you can have as much homeowners insurance as you want. You could have as much car insurance as you want. You could have as much life insurance as you want. You cannot have as much health insurance as you want. For example, I'm retired from the police department. I have my health insurance from there. I teach at St. Raymond's. I am not allowed to take that as a secondary policy in New York. I think that's crazy. I mean, if I'm entitled to it, I should be able to use that as a secondary source for paying off my bills. So that's the type of thing, deregulation. I think any approach for health insurance and health care, the goal has to be to drive prices down so we can get more people more affordable health insurance.
All right. And that's it for the issues. But I was on your website, and in a second I'll have you give everybody the website. It's a great website, but you're an accomplished musician. You're a good singer.
Yeah, musicians stretching it. I do sing. Yeah, I've been singing for a long time. We were playing every other Thursday in a local place, Brewski's in the Bronx. I sing with Tim Curtin and friends, and we haven't played since March 5th because of the virus. So that's a tough thing for all of us. And I think the one thing that everybody is missing is that the camaraderie that live music brings, that whole experience, the vibe that it brings to the community, and it's all gone. That's something that's so important to so many communities. I know a lot of friends in Pearl River, and I've sung there a few times with my friend Roddy Harrington. And you know, those are the things that bring people together. And we haven't been able to do any of that. And that's one part of this whole, you know, this whole pandemic that I think people have really missed. I mean, I know there's far more important things. The deaths are obviously just unbelievable. But that whole feeling of community has just been destroyed. We have to figure out a way to get all of that back. But yeah, music is a big part of my life. It always has been.
Very cool. Very cool. And where can we see that video?
Yeah, we're at
more about your campaign and your candidacy.
Yeah, we're at Cummings2020.com, Cummings2020.com. We have a tremendous amount of people have gone on there. The video has been seen, I think, 10 million times. Look, I'm not a politician. You know, I've done a lot of things, but I'm not a politician, and I want to serve. And when you go on our site, you see what our views are, but then you see who I am, you really realize, you know what, this is a regular guy who we need in Washington. We need more regular people. There's nothing wrong with being a regular person. I don't need to be a star. I'm not going down there for a new persona. I don't need one. I don't need the job. You know, I have a couple of jobs. I really feel that there's a need here, and that's why I got involved.
All right. John Cummings, we'll leave it right there. Good man, good candidate. Good luck in the campaign. Check out his website. Check him out on social media. All the best to you, John. Thanks for your time this morning.
Well, thank you, Karen. Good seeing you.
All right. Take care.